everyone. So today I'm going to start another sewing project. This one is going to be following this pattern here. So I'm going to be attempting to do the one that's in the main picture here. So this is going to be a simple, it says should be very easy to do. So a simple dress without any sleeves, just to see if I can get the whole bodice and skirt together. Considering my last project where I was working on the Regency gown and I noticed I had a little bit of issues with sleeves, and I want to take a step back from that and deal with sleeves later and just focus on two pieces, putting them together, the very core basics of any any outfit. So the bodice or the shirt and the skirt to attach for the dress. So that's why I picked this, and that's why I'm going to work on it next. So I'm going to go through and do this. I am going to be doing this first with another sheet. I have actually a lot of very old sheets that we no longer use and don't need, and we're planning on getting rid of until I started going, hey, I'm sewing. So I'm going to first do it out of a sheet, and then I have some other fabric that I want to try and make it out of. The only thing I don't have for it right now at the moment is it calls for a zipper. I did not buy a zipper, so I will be trying on this dress and making it without a zipper because I only want to use the zipper once, because of my experience with zippers on the pillowcases. As you remember, it was a little difficult to get it the right size, and it was a little difficult to make sure it stayed on, and my machine kept not wanting to sew through, especially since I don't at the moment have a zipper foot for my sewing machine, which means I might want to think about hand sewing in the zipper. So for now, I'm not going to put the zipper in this project. And I just want to try it on to see if it works, see if it's loose without a zipper, and then maybe use some safety pins, get one of my friends to help to safety pin it on to see if it fits that way, since I don't have a zipper to close it up. If it's too tight without the zipper on, then I know for sure that I messed up the measurements. However, from my last mistake of accidentally buying a pattern that's for sizes too small, I did go ahead and I did get a bigger size pattern. So instead of the 8 to 14 size pattern, I've gotten a 16 to 22 size pattern. So I'm going to start it off by doing it in the 22 because I've heard it said that it's easier to go smaller, not to go bigger. So if it's way too big as a 22 for me, then it'll be easy to shrink down the pattern to the right size for me, instead of having to do with what I had to do for the Regency dress and guess that I needed to add an inch around the pattern and figuring out where the lines go and moving the marks around and calculating, well, if this circle is here for the size 14, then I need to put it here for this inch change. So instead of doing all of that, I figured it'd just be easy to get the largest size and do it this way. So that's what I'm going to do. So my next step now is going to be cutting out all of the pattern pieces for this, and then ironing them, and then putting it onto the sheet. So let me get to that. So I have the pattern all spread out. This sheet, the stretch is both ways because this sheet is not 100% cotton, it's part polyester. So the stretch was both ways, so I just put the pieces where they fit, and because I didn't have to worry about adding an extra inch all around, I was able to get them as close as possible. And the instructions says that the seam allowance was included into the pattern, so I didn't have to worry about making sure I left room for that. And I still have plenty of sheet left over, and so I'm going to start cutting now to get all the pieces out. this sheet was, you can't see it here because it's on a part that's not stained, but this sheet was actually stained. So as I go through this project, you will later see the stains show up. But that's why I'm using this as a practice run instead of a final dress. And I will use other fabric for the final dress if this turns out good. I did happen to accidentally tear one of the pattern pieces. Let's see if I can find it. This one. I tore it right here, so I'm hoping that that won't be too big of an issue. So we'll see how that goes. And I'm going to try not to tear them anymore as I am cutting, because I'd like to actually make this as a real dress and keep this to make possibly more dresses if I like how this fits and how this looks. And so now I'm going to start cutting and I will start sewing pieces together. So I've already finished cutting out all the pieces and ironing them, and I sewed together the bodice pieces. So I've sewed together the front and I've sewn together the sides, and I've attached them all together the way it shows in the picture. And this bodice wanted a lining basically to cover the raw ends, but I don't know if I did these seams wrong, considering that I'm supposed to have to iron down a seam, so because one side's supposed to be covered by a lining and then the other side is going to be what's on the outside, so it should be nice and neat. So I don't know why it looks like this, if this is supposed to be the outside. So I don't know if I've sewn these parts on wrong, or if this is how it's supposed to look at this stage and later I do something else to it, or maybe I'm supposed to iron over this and then cut it. So it's ironed over to hide the seam, but I don't see how that would be pretty. So I don't know. But it looks like the back does close here, and then this is where the hooks will be in the back. So it closes in the back, and it looks like the zipper is going to be for the skirt part. So I might be able to put this on without needing a zipper attached, but I'm not sure about the whole not having the hooks as well. So I'll see how that goes. But I am concerned that it may be a little large at the moment, that I may need to go down in size, because this may be a little bit big for me, but I will try it on and see. But right now I need to just attach the back panels to the front panel of the bodice piece. And I'm also wondering if it seems a little large because there's supposed to be lining, and I don't know if the lining is going to shrink the size of it or not, because it wants us to just put in the lining, and to make the lining they want us to do it in the same manner as the bodice. So it's the same size pieces all put together, so it's just the same pieces laid on top of each other and sewn together. So I don't know if that will make the size smaller at all. And I don't know if I want to take out more of the fabric, well, more of what was left, the portion that was left of the sheet, to go ahead and make the lining out of the sheet, because I don't think that the lining is going to make a huge difference on the sizing of the garment. And since I'm focusing mostly on how it falls together and the sizing, I don't think I need to do the lining because that looks like it will just be to make the dress look nicer, not fit better. So I'm going to hold off on the lining. I'm going to put all of these pieces together and then try it on the best I can. And if it fits, I'll decide whether or not I'm going to do the lining. If it doesn't fit, then I will just have to bring it down, I will just have to try and make the smaller size and see how that works, or try to figure out a way to bring it down to see how much I need to take off of it. So how much from the pieces for the pattern piece do I need to take off? So where do I go from 22 to what if it's too big? If it's the perfect size, then I will stick with the 22. So that is where I'm at, and we'll see how it goes. So I finished sewing the pieces together, and I accidentally sewed these pieces on the wrong side, because this I thought was supposed to be the front and this is the back, so I accidentally messed up and sewed it on the wrong side. And so because of that, I was planning, I'm going to take out these seams, and while I was at it, I was thinking that maybe the reason why this looks so bad is because I sewed it close to the edge of the inside layer instead of close to the edge of this. So I'm going to try that. And then also, because it does seem like it wants me to have pressable seams, that maybe I actually need to like put the two pieces together like this, and sew instead of doing flat one on top of the other and sew. So I'm gonna take out both of these pieces, and then one I'm going to take out and do along the edge, and the other one I'm going to try and do the two together and sew situation. The reason why I did this flat like here is because this is what worked for the other back bodice piece from the previous thing, the Regency gown. So I thought I would be doing the same thing, but it just doesn't look right for this gown, because this right here is what the gown is supposed to look like, and that tells me that it'd be flat in the front, and this just doesn't look right, because see, this is like the front, and it's I mean, I guess it's okay because this is the front here. I guess this is what it wanted, but this also has the jagged edge here, so maybe I was supposed to turn it in. And so actually, looking at that, I think that's what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to turn this in and then sew it down, and probably do the same for this and sew along the edge here instead of here. So it looks like I'm going to have to take out the whole entire thing and redo it. So yay! Luckily this is a mock-up and this is what it's for. And I did do larger stitches, so hopefully this won't take too long to take it out and redo it. And hopefully this one won't rip like the other one did. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to now take out the bodice. So I unpinned everything and I tried to match the ends of the pieces to each other to do the two pieces together, and so but just like last time, it didn't really match up. So I went ahead and I ironed down a corner, and now I'm going to attach that and sew through that, and hopefully that will give the better look. Instead of the raw unfinished edge look, it'll give more of this structured line look, and like in the picture on the pattern, how it's not really a visible, it is clear, like it is clearly a seam, but it's not a visible seam. So that's what I'm going to try now. So the ironing down made it easier to pin and match it up. I still get this weird puckering effect, and the ends are not perfectly lined up as I was sewing, but it's much better than what I was getting with the Regency gown, the way it was going, because it kept tearing through, and one was like almost out and all the way through. So this was much better. And if I flip it over to the other side, this looks way more like what the picture is for how it's supposed to look. So you can see the distinct line here. And I think if I iron the seams open, see, and now I have seams, so now I can iron the seams open like the instructions were saying before applying the lining like they wanted. So now I understand that part of it. So I think this is what they actually want me to do instead of what I did. And this does, I think, make the bodice piece a little bit smaller. So maybe that's why it seemed so big before. So now that I know that this is what they want me to do, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the back pieces here, and then I'm going to iron out all of the seams before attaching. And before it, I went ahead and I attached the front and the back like it said here, so I attached it, but I did the sides and the top. But it clearly shows here that it only wants the sides, and then you're supposed to hem all around with the lining already in place. So this time that's what I'm going to do. So after I finish ironing down a portion of the curve here, of this piece. So after I finish ironing down the portion of the curve here to make it fit better with this, sewing it, and then iron all the seams open flat, I will go through and I will hem all of the edges down, so I have nice smooth edges. Oh wait, after doing the ironing, sewing, ironing again, then I will sew. And you know, maybe I should iron down a line, sew it on, and then iron all of the seams open and then hem. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, that is what I'm gonna do. So I realized why sewing these parts together, the curved parts together, was so hard, is because I forgot to make notches into the pieces before I tried to sew it, which it states in the pattern instructions, notch as needed. So I think next time if I do that, I won't get this weird puckered, jagged cutting. And then I reread the instructions, and there is no turn down, like there is no turn. And I reread the instructions, and there is no turning down like this and hemming along. what they actually want you to do is with the lining, you turn it inside out after you've done attaching it here and here. So the lining itself, as it turns in, gives all of those edges the hemmed in effect, and then since you've turned it out, you go back and at the top you hem it in and you close it off, and then the bottom gets hemmed in by when it's attached to the skirt. So that leaves me to the point where I might actually need to do the lining to practice putting this whole entire skirt together, because if I don't, then I'm going to be missing that whole entire turnover and hemming step, and it'll give me a chance to re-practice this with making notches. So what it looks like I'm going to have to do before I can complete the bodice is to go and take what's left over from the sheet and cut out all of the bodice pattern pieces again from it in order to make the lining, because I have finished ironing down the seams as best as I could. So I'm going to finish up with the bodice here and cut out the other pieces, and in the meantime, between cutting out the other pieces and attaching it and getting it all ready, I'm going to move on to the skirt. Because the skirt is very easy and simple. Because the skirt doesn't look like it has any lining to it. It is just simply doing the skirt together, and then it starts talking about adding the bodice. So there's no lining, so I'm just going to quickly go ahead, put the skirt together. And it looks like for this style, it wants the zipper to go the length all the way up to the top, and then just at the top have a hook and eye close. So I'm thinking maybe what I can do for just trying it on, maybe sew up the zipper and just leave the bodice open so I can still get it on. I'm not the zipper. So maybe sew up the skirt so it's one full piece of skirt and just leave the bodice open to try it on and off, just to see if it fits or if it's too big or if it's too small, what I need to do with the pattern sizing, because I don't want to use a zipper, and I don't think I actually have a zipper that is big enough for what it requires. And then also the belt. The belt, which is supposed to be for it. It doesn't look like the belt has any lining, just the two pieces that they gave. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the skirt, sew the belt, and then repin and cut out the bodice pieces so that I can attach everything all together and go back and finish the bodice the way it's supposed to be with lining. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so I finished up sewing the belt, and I realized with the center part I flipped it the wrong way, because it wants us to sew the two pieces together and then fold in half and sew and then turn it inside out. So when I did that, I flipped it the wrong way. So instead of sewing down here, this is my seam, and then flipping it this way, I should have flipped it the other way. So that's something I noticed, but I finished this, and now for the skirt, it wants me to sew it together but then leave a space for where the zipper is. Now, because I'm not planning on putting in the zipper, I'm going to just sew it all the way to the top. So from the bottom all the way to the top, and hopefully I will still be able to get into this when I attach it to the bodice and all of that. because I don't want to do the zipper, so the bodice isn't going to close in the back. It'll just be attached to this, and then this is going to be closed all the way up, and we'll see if that works enough for me to be able to try it on without needing a zipper at all in order to close it or do that. So now I'm just going to sew the skirt together and then work on the lining. Right. So I finished sewing the skirt together, and like I said, I just went all the way to the top to see if that'll be okay with trying it on. And I also kinda hemmed the bottom. I still had this puckering effect, but I did turn it down all the way around and I hemmed all the bottom of the skirt. So the skirt is basically done. It just needs to be added to the bodice. I didn't do anything to the top because I don't fully understand the instructions for attaching the bodice to the skirt, so I left it undone just to see what they want me to do with that. And then I did go and finish cutting out and ironing the lining using the same pieces that were required for the bodice, so the front and the back. Now I'm getting ready to sew the pieces together to create the whole entire lining like it asked in the instructions. And this time I went through and I've cut little notches where in the curve before pinning it into place, and I'm hoping that that will give a cleaner and easier line when I stitch these pieces together, and they'll also make it so there's less puckering. So I finished doing that, and I will do, if this works for this piece, I will do the same for the other two pieces. And once that is all complete and sewn together, like the first piece that I did, I will attach it as lining. And depending on how this piece turns out compared to the other piece that I did first, I'll decide which one I actually want is the lining piece and which one will be the outer garment piece, considering if they're made out of the same material and there is no really front or back to this, and the whole entire sheet, like I said, is stained with different kinds of things because this was once used as like the sheet we put on the floor when we're painting or something like that. So there's different paint stains and stuff. So it doesn't really matter which side is prettier, but I'm going to go with the side that has the best seams to be the outside, so it would look more like what I would want the actual skirt to be like. And then I will try it on. I'm going to read the instructions one more time to see if they want me to bring the bodice in together before attaching it to the skirt, as in folding it in half and making the sides meet front and back first. I mean, bringing it all the way through the back to making the side meet, or however they want it to finish. If they want to make it a whole circle, so once I finish this lining, I will attach it, and then I will read the instructions one more time very carefully, as I have learned from the last process that I need to read the instructions and reread the instructions and reread and reread and reread. And so I've learned this, reread and reread. So I'll read it one more time before deciding out how this bodice piece is supposed to attach. So right now I'm going to get sewing, and then I'll show you when I'm done. Alright, so I finished sewing the other bodice piece, which is supposed to be the line, all together. It's all done. I still have the puckering effect. Though I watched a YouTube video and they mentioned something about tension might be doing this. So I have to look in to see how I can adjust tension on my sewing machine. That way I can see how I can make it less, but I do have to say, by actually notching it and cutting into these curves actually made it so much easier to pin into place and to sew it all together like this. And so now I have the nice neat edges on the other side. Of course, as you can see, because of the puckering, I still have all of that there, but it's all together, it's all one piece, and I'm really happy with that. So now I'm going to read the instructions, figure out how it wants me to put the lining in to the other bodice piece, connect them all, and then sew them through to see what it looks like, and move forward with this. So I'm really close to being done because they want lining to the bodice, bodice to the skirt, finish. Because I've already completed the skirt and I've already completed the belt, which looks like it's just something that you tie around. I could sew this little special bow detail that it has here. As you can see in the picture, this bow, I could sew the little bow, but I don't feel like doing that. And I guess I could sew the belt itself onto the skirt, but again, I don't feel like doing that. I'm not too fond of belts and skirts, and I like to be able, or sorry, belts and dresses, and I like to be able to mix and match my belts with my dresses. I don't like having built-in belts because it makes it difficult to do that. So I'm personally not going to sew the belt on at the waist. I'm just going to leave it as something I can tie around, and that's what I will do, and I'll see how it looks. But I'm so close to being finished, so let me just continue and we'll see what's next. So the instructions said to hem the lining before pinning and doing it, and it wanted the same style as what the Regency gown wanted with the little side there, so it had fold over and fold over again, but I went a little bit larger than what it said simply because the last time I did that it was very difficult to get my very difficult for the sewing machine to go through, and I did not like it whatsoever. So I did a little bit bigger hem, which I'm hoping won't cause any problems. And then I pin it, and now I'm going to sew the two together and we'll see how it turns out. Alright, so I wanted to quickly try on the skirt just to make sure that without the bodice it fits. So I went and I trimmed the top because it actually did show that I was supposed to trim the top, and then I went and put it on over my head because that's how it will have to go with the bodice on since it's closed, and with no zipper or anything it seems to fit. It has a little wiggle room, as you can see, but it does seem to fit, and it goes down to my knees, so I think that seems to be a good length. It does, yeah, there it goes, and the side seams do seem to fit and hit right at the sides. They are right here, which I think is a good place for them to be. So it looks like this is the correct sizing for the skirt, and if I had put the end of the zipper here, or a zipper here, I think it would fit nicely too. It might be a little bit looser because of the zipper would give it more spacing, but to be honest, I don't think that would make it way too big for me. I think it might just make it a more flowy skirt instead of form-fitting, which I actually kind of like flowy skirts. I don't really like ones that are too stick to my form anyway, so that would actually be a plus to me. So I finished this, and I have finished sewing the lining all together, and I turned it inside out, and then it wants me to do the shoulders, attach the shoulders here before attaching the bottom to the skirt. And I don't understand the way it wants me to sew the shoulders shut. I'm going to try it this way. So I've pinned down in place, rolling in the hem on the side and rolling this down because it wanted that to be done. And then I'm going to first sew the bottom here. So sew along here, and then sew together this bottom part, and then sew along the sides, and then sew this part together. Maybe, I mean, that's what I had thought about, but I don't know, it might make it so it's not really a shoulder seam or not. And I'm also debating whether or not I want to hand sew this, because it might be a little bit difficult to maneuver around my machine. I'm not entirely sure, so I'm going to think about this for a little bit. Maybe I'll attempt one shoulder with the machine, and then the other shoulder, if it turns out well with the machine, will be with the machine. If not, then I'll hand do the other shoulder. So that is where I'm at. It's all together. I need to finish the shoulders first, and then I will try on the bodice piece without it attached to the skirt to see if it roughly fits that way, and then I will attach it to the skirt. And the way I'm going to attach it, I'm going to attach it all the way around, including, I'll attach it all the way around, but I will stop a little ways towards the end, so that way this is still open, so I can put it on and put the skirt on, and hopefully that will be okay. I'm gonna see if I can just pull it on over my head. It may not fit because this is supposed to be a zipper dress and not a pull over your head dress. So if the sizing is right, it may not work, because I know with the pull over your head dresses it needs to be stretchy, and it's cotton polyester, so it has a little stretch, but not much. So we'll see how it works. But I do know that for a fact the skirt fits. And once I finish the shoulders, I will try it to see if the bodice fits, and I'll see if it works all together without a zipper, because I still do not have a zipper. So I finished pinning the skirt, and I read the instructions, and they had only one little part of the skirt being attached to the bodice, and it seemed like they only wanted to do the outer layer of the bodice to be pinned to the skirt, not the lining as well. And I didn't fully understand why that was the case. Why they would let the lining be so loose, because the lining is only attached to the outer part of the bodice by the top and not by the bottom at all. And it shows in the picture that it's not supposed to be attached to the bottom at all. So I know that for sure. So I was a little confused as to why they wouldn't want the lining to be attached to the skirt. So I went ahead and I pinned the lining and the outer layer to the skirt. And so that's what you see here, is all the layers together. And I think I now know why they didn't want to do that. It's because this is like a lot of fabric. So I'm worried that I won't be able to sew through it. Because because the lining, they wanted you to hem it over. So with the hem, and then the outer, and then the hem of the skirt, because they wanted you to hem in the skirt, like this seems to be a lot of fabric to sew through, and I don't think my sewing machine can actually do that. So I'm going to have to unpin the lining from here and just leave it loose. I don't like the idea of that, but maybe it'll be different once it's on. Once I've tried it on, maybe it'll be different, and maybe it would be a little different if I had the zipper part in, so these backs were together. So maybe, but I'm gonna have to take out the lining from here because my machine is just not going to get through that, and only sew the outer portion of the bodice to the skirt, and then I will try it on and see how it fits. I have finished sewing the bodice to the skirt, and as you can see, I did not do the lining attached, and when I hold it up to the light, because this material isn't the thickest, you can see the lining through, and I don't really like that, but I'm thinking maybe it's because I hemmed the lining up really high, and if I had hemmed it lower, it would hit at the same spot of the seam of where the outer bodice layer went there. So, and of course I did it all the way to the back, but I did not sew up the back here. I'm hoping that that will allow me to put it on and try it, since this is supposed to have a zipper and I am not adding the zipper. So here is it finished, and then I will try it on. Hopefully it will go on. Skirt still fits. Let's see if the bodice changed shape. Because of the back not being fully attached, it makes it a little interesting to bring the bodice back around, but it's basically there where it's supposed to be, and it does feel a little bit like it does feel a little bit like I just need to zip up the dress and then it's on. It seems to be a little ill-fitted though. It doesn't seem to fit exactly how I want it to, but maybe if it was zipped, they would pull it a little bit back here. So I guess that could just be the fact that it doesn't have a zipper. The waist is here, and this right here is where my shorts are. So it's a little high. It's actually above my belly button, because I like to keep my pants and stuff at my belly button. So this is where my belly button is, and this is where it's at. So it's high waist, but I don't think that's too bad. Yeah, it's a dress. I'm not sure how I like it. I think most of it could be because of the puckering caused when I was sewing it, which may be because of tension, so maybe if I adjusted tension. But it seems to fit, and I think the top would, because the top seems a little wide here, and I think that's just because it needs to be zipped. So I think if I had zipped it, it would work, maybe, maybe not. But I think overall, it's pretty decent. If I make this into an actual dress I'll wear, I'll have to keep in mind to test, make sure I get rid of the puckering, and I really don't like this high neckline. I don't like how it keeps touching right here. It just bothers me when clothes touch right here. That's why I don't like really tight turtlenecks. If it's up here, it's okay, but right here I don't really like. So if I would make this, I think I would make this curve deeper, so a stronger curve line. But other than that, I think it hits the right height. I mean, it goes to my knees, and that doesn't seem a problem. And if it was, I could just pull it up and hem it more. And the skirt does seem to fit around. So I think it did pretty well. I'm happy with it. And as you can see, this is an old sheet, so it doesn't look the best. But I think fitting wise, it seems to fit okay. Just slightly off here and there. Like the armholes are kind of large, but I think again, if it's pulled back a little bit, it might be okay. But that pulling back seems to raise this, so yeah, I'll definitely need to cut it down. Oh, is the belt. Let's see what happens when I add the belt. The belt, it fits. It's a belt, and I mean, it seems okay to me. I have no problem with it. But it could be, I would be okay without it. I don't need a belt per se. This would still be a nice dress, especially if it had a pretty pattern. So I'm okay with it like that. And I think the number 22 seems to work for me, because that is the pattern size I did. So 22 it is with this pattern. So I think, since I have the finished mock-up, I think that's where I'm going to end the video, because this is probably going to be very long, because it was a long process that took many days to do, because I am still learning everything and still doing things. Like with the shoulder here, I need to work on how to attach the shoulder, and just a few little things I need to remember when doing this. But just a reminder, I was making this dress here, so not dress number C, from this pattern, and I think it turned out okay. Here you can see her neckline is lower, so I'm pretty sure I think I messed up a little bit right here. I think it was supposed to be shorter in length, this the bodice piece, but it works out for me, so it's all good. And it does show on the pattern pieces itself how I can shorten or lengthen this piece and where to do that. So I might just, instead of cutting this deeper, I might just fold that pattern piece and do the shortened length. That may work. I will have to try it out. Maybe do a little test run, because as I did earlier in the video, I was able to just put on the bodice piece by itself to see where it sit, and this neckline hasn't changed at all from when I did that. It's still as high as it was before, so I can always test out, use some extra, I might actually just do that, use some of the leftover sheet material and shorten it, and print out and pull. So I might just use some of the extra sheet material and cut out the pattern pieces and shorten them, and then sew it all together, do a really quick bodice, see if that changes the neckline, and if it doesn't, then I will do the deeper cut for the actual fabric itself when I make the dress. So now I just need to decide if I'm going to make the dress itself and what fabric I'm going to use to do it. Because luckily the materials it suggests is lightweight linen, cotton blends, and I have a lot of cotton and cotton blends because I love how soft and light it is. I don't like heavy weighted clothes, and also cotton is known to breathe, and I like that. So I might make this next, and look forward to in another video when I make the actual dress instead of this mock-up. But for now, this is it, the end of the videos. If you have any suggestions or comments for all the things that I did during this video, or ways to make it easier on myself, or maybe some little explanation like how to attach the sleeves together, why the way the bodice was set up, just anything like that to help me out, that would be great if you could comment down below. If you like this video, give it a like, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!